First of all, welcome to 2022. I hope you had a fantastic end of year and I hope you're looking forward to what 2022 brings to you. Today we're going to be taking a look at 12, well technically 13, but one's just basically a double as an alternative. Great websites that I think could be really useful to you moving forward with your designs, especially if you're stuck for inspiration, looking for quick ways to avoid using plugins and so much more. So let's start off with the very first one. Okay, so one of the things you're probably going to do when you're creating websites is deal with favicons, reducing things like logos and so on, and you want to know what they're going to look like. Well, today we're going to take a look at Logo Crunch. Logo Crunch is a way of simply uploading your graphics and then checking out what they look like on various different sizes, but also adjusting various different parameters, the crop sizes, things like the line strength, those kinds of things to make sure that everything looks great. You can go ahead and you can upload your logo. I've just used a random one so we can see how it all looks. If we take a look then, you can see we can view this on various different sizes. So you can see it gives us a representation of the pixelation on the left-hand side and what it would actually look like in a browser on the right-hand side. So this is perfect when you want to make sure that things look great for your favicons, icons for your apps and so on. And then all you need to do is use the options then on the right hand side to go ahead and adjust various different parameters. So you can simplify things. If you've got complex or comprehensive designs, you can simplify those by using the simplify options. Obviously it's going to work better on various different kinds of more complex designs. But we can use those options to simplify things, to remove any kind of like fine lines and things like that that kind of just get lost in the design anyway. If you've got spaces and gaps you want to remove those, you can use the fill holes section. And you can see we can adjust that, and that will just adjust any spaces, any little gaps you've got in the design. Not a great example, this one, but we can thicken things as well to make sure that everything looks good. And as you can see, by thickening this, when we drop down to smaller icon sizes, we don't lose a lot of the detail. And then you can go ahead, you can download your favicon, an Android app or an iOS app icon. So pretty cool, something I would recommend taking a look at. Now next on our list is a website called Duotone. Now this is pretty cool. Duotones are definitely something that's kind of becoming more fashionable in 2021-2022. So this is a quick way of being able to create those, especially using Unsplash for your free images. So what this is basically doing is it allows you to choose two different colors to create a duotone effect. And it'll then just show you those based upon some predefined images taken straight from Unsplash, or you can go ahead and search for something yourself. So let's just search for something like laptop. You can see that now pulls in a range of images from Unsplash for laptop, and they're already done in duotone. And we can simply come up and change those if we've got specific colors we want to work with. We can simply come over, adjust those colors, tweak, make sure we've got good contrast in there, or you can pull in from pre-designed colors. So for example, this orangey kind of red color, you can see that pulls in a color combination that it feels will work. Then when you're ready, you can simply click to open up the image, go ahead and download it and do whatever you want to do. So a really quick way of creating duotone images direct from Unsplash in seconds. Now, one of the areas that is really important when working with multiple different devices is making sure you've got responsive designs, responsive fonts, typography, those kinds of things. Now, this is something that is quite comprehensive and complex, and some people just generally struggle with the whole concept of working with pixels and M's and rems and all those kinds of things. So the Fluid Responsive Font Size Calculator is a very useful little tool. You can see we've got some instructions on the right hand side how to use this, and then on the left hand side we've got the sort of calculator. So we can work in units of pixels, rems or M's. We can choose the selector that we want to work with, and there's a full list of valid selector types. We can take a look at the font size selector, and you can see we can go ahead and make sure that we've got the right ones created inside there. Then all you need to do is go ahead and choose the property that you want to use, the range working in pixels, for example. So we might say our range is from 24 to 32. You can see we can choose the viewport size that we want to work with, and then we can choose the end query, no end query, whether we're going to use clamp, minimum, maximum. We want to include comments, the Safari fix to make sure it works fine on Safari, and then we can go ahead and we can copy that CSS or we can test it out. And you can see underneath it shows us the CSS, and we can just then go ahead and use that inside our designs. So a very quick way of calculating those various different units to make sure your CSS is optimal for working with font sizing across various different resolutions and sizes. Now, sticking with fonts, Some people, myself included, can struggle with getting great combinations of fonts, especially when you kind of become very used to working with very similar fonts like Montserrat, Open Sans, those kinds of things. So if you want just a dose of inspiration, then I'd recommend taking a look at Mixfont. And what this does is it basically just mixes two fonts together that it thinks will work, and you can use those as a starting point. So you can see we've got over 1,000 unique fonts, 600,000 pairings in various different languages. So what we need to do is simply click Start the Generator, and boom, there we go. We now have a combination that it thinks will work well together. In this example, we've got the freehand and we've got Noto Sans TC. The nice thing about this is it gives you a layout kind of idea to see what this would look like on a web page. So we've got this kind of hero section at the top. If we scroll down, you can see we've got various different sort of sections on our site that we might see, going through the calendars and all different kinds of things, so you can make sure that the font pairing is what you want. If you don't like that one, well, let's just go ahead, jump back out, and we'll come back, and you see we can just quickly swipe to create new combinations to test those out. And if you want to lock a font, you can simply click to lock it, and then we can just keep on just going through the various different iterations until we find something we like, and then we can just go ahead and embed that information directly into our site, or just use this as a starting point where we know the names of the fonts, and then we can reference those. So a great way of getting font pairings and just testing some things out to get a little bit of a fun flair on your designs. Design inspiration. This is something that I'm sure most of us struggle with from time to time. So it's great to have places like Design Inspiration. And the thing that's cool about this is it's not just a sort of Pinterest for design. You can go ahead and you can put color values in. It will search the designs, but not only search the designs, you can use these color values to see how various different color combinations would work on photographs, designs, layouts, those kinds of things. So if you have an idea in mind, but you're kind of struggling with the best way to implement that, Design Inspiration could be a great starting point. So all you need to do is click on this little icon, and you can see now that opens up a color palette for us. And now we can go ahead and choose some colors. So let's just choose something like this orangey red. There's our first color, you can see inside there, and if we click inside there, you can see we get the hexadecimal value. So if you have specific values, you can simply drop those inside there to make sure they're perfect for what you want. For this example though, I'm not too bothered, I just want to have a little play about. So we're going to go for this orangey color, and we're going to go for a deep kind of purple. There we go. So let's just adjust this. If we want to move it around, we can reposition it. If we want to get rid of it, you can just hover over and click on the little X. Really simple, intuitive interface. Now we can just go ahead and search. And you can see there's a pile of inspiration on how these colors can be combined together to create various different kinds of designs utilizing those color schemes. So you can see, for example, this Nike, we've got this gradient. Gradients are definitely in a sort of big point at the moment with 2022. They're definitely something you're going to see a lot more of. So now we have a ton of inspiration, ton of ideas that we can go ahead and use to help us create and formulate our design system, our design language, whatever we want. And that's Design Inspiration. Pretty cool website. Now, if you're looking to brand something up, for example, you have a client that doesn't have any kind of branding and you want to create something, but you don't want to just spend a huge amount of money and time and effort, I'd recommend taking a look at Brandmark. Now, Brandmark is pretty cool. You can simply come in, you can choose to create your logo. We're going to give this a name. We're going to call this Wibble Inc. Slogan. There we go. Better Wibble than dead. I have no idea what any of this means. And then we can go ahead and we can start creating brand keywords. So let's just say we're going to go for modern, fresh, dependable, sleek. And this is basically just giving us different keywords that we feel encapsulate the brand that we want to create. Now if we go ahead and click on the next option, you can see we can choose color styles. And again, you can choose your own color styles, but let's go for something really simple. Like for example, let's go for this vibrant. We'll choose next. And now it's going to go ahead and generate a selection of different logo designs for us. Okay, so now we've gone ahead, let it do its job, and you can see this starts to give us a ton of different designs. So we can now go ahead, start going through these until we find something that we like. So I kind of like the look of this really modern kind of fresh design. So what I can do is I can also go in now and I can take a look at the ideas. And what this does is it gives us different color combinations using that color palette that we chose at the beginning, using the design that we've just picked upon. Now you're not stuck with this, you can go back and take a look at those previous designs, but you can also go in and you can start to take a look at doing more with these. So we say we quite like the look of this one, or we can go ahead and we can edit this. And now we can come in and we can adjust things like the fonts that are being used, the color scheme that's being used to fine tune and tweak this. We can change the name, the title. We can change our slogan if we want to. We can add an icon in and we can edit that icon. So you can see we can browse our icons and we can say we kind of like the look of this, and now we change that E to this kind of weird symbol. And obviously these depend upon the types of design that you choose. So there's a ton of different options inside here. You can change your background, you can change your layout. So you can see we could just go ahead and we could do something like this. The icon now sits above everything. We can choose it to be underneath, to the left, to the right, or like we saw it kind of as part of the design itself. I kind of like the look of this one. And now once you've done that, you basically have the starting point for your design, and then you can go ahead and purchase this if you want to. So while this isn't free, it is a great starting point for inspiration. And like I say, if you have a client that just doesn't have anything, well, you could use this. And if we go and take a look at the purchase option, if all they need is a really simple logo, you can grab the PNG version of this for $25. Or if you want more, to give you design assets and different mock-ups, things like business cards, letterheads, invoices, logos, those kinds of things, well, this is something worth looking at. And for $65, I think it's a pretty cool option. But if you want even more, you can jump up to the enterprise version where you can actually get designs to come in. So additional designs on top of these pre-built ones for you. So that's Brandmark. Check it out. I think it's pretty cool if you're on a budget and you want some inspiration, or you want a low-cost design. Now next up, we have Google Web Designer, a totally free tool. Don't get kind of confused though by the web designer kind of moniker. This isn't something you can create entire websites with. Well, you kind of could, but it's not really aimed at replacing something like WordPress or Elementor, those kinds of things. But if you're in the market to create animated apps and you want to, or animated icons and adverts and things like that, and integrate those into your sort of Google ads and things like that, this is something that's worth checking out. You see, you basically have a timeline kind of thing. You can design these, you can animate them, you can create really cool effects. Now, this is something that gives you a lot of flexibility, lots of really cool things. It is somewhat limited in certain regards into combination to the kind of things you could do if you are comfortable creating these yourself. But if you want something quick and easy with no price tag attached to it, it's worth taking a look at. You can add in animations, you can do all kinds of pretty cool things. So check out Web Designer from Google. Now, if you're fed up with using tools like Figma and Sketch and things like that, or you just don't want to spend the money on those kinds of things and you're looking for an alternative, you may want to check out Framer. Now, if you like prototyping for mobile apps and desktop apps and for websites and things like that, then I think Framer is something worth checking out. You can see we can create interactive presentations, we can create all manner of different ways of interacting with our design before we go ahead and actually create it. Very similar, like I say, to Figma and Sketch and those kinds of tools. And the nice thing with this is you can get started for free. So if you want something like this, you can go ahead and sign up for the free plan. And if we take a look, that gives you unlimited viewers. You can have 2 editors, 3 projects, pretty cool. And there's a desktop app associated with it as well. So if you're working on something yourself, you're a small freelancer and you don't need to be working on multiple projects simultaneously, the free plan will probably be more than enough for you. So if you want an alternative, check out Framer. Now, we don't all want to pay for Photoshop, we don't have Affinity Designer, we just simply want something that allows us to get some graphic work done, editing some images, maybe pulling in a PSD and just doing some basic work to it, and we don't want to spend any money. This is where a tool like Photopea comes in. Now, Photopea is basically an online variant of Photoshop. But it's pretty cool. It has a lot of really useful functions. You can work with smart objects, part of Photoshop. You can load in PSD files. But what is also cool is you can load in Affinity files. So you're not limited to only working with PSDs. If you've got someone supplying images via Affinity, you can use it on here. And it's very, very cool. All we need to do is we'll open an image from a computer. In this example, I'm going to open up PSD, but you can open up all manner of different file types. So we'll open that up, we'll let it upload, and boom, there we go. Within a matter of seconds. And if you take a look, you can see you've got all the kinds of tools you're probably familiar with Photoshop, your selection, your group selection, your different Magic Wand tools, cropping tools, and so on. We've got all of the layers and options on the right-hand side. You've got your channels, your paths, your history, your swatches, typography, all those kinds of things, and everything is fully editable inside here. So you want to edit this text, we can simply come in and you see we can start typing. Simple as that. So you have a very, very cool and easy way of being able to work with your Photoshop files, your Affinity files, PNG files, SVG files, tons and tons of file formats, totally and utterly free using Photopea. Now for those dynamic lovers out there, that's me included, you don't always want to go to the time and effort of maintaining another plugin like CPT UI, but you want to create custom post types. Well, I've got two options for you today that are totally free that allow you to create custom post types and a lot more. First of all, we have Hasty. Now Hasty allows us to do quite a few different things, but we've got the post type generator open at the moment. So you can see we can go ahead and we can create custom post types, we can create taxonomies, all those kinds of things, and we can set up whether things are like hierarchical, you can exclude them from search. So if you're coming from something like custom post type UI or Metabox or Jet Engine, those kinds of tools where you can create your own custom post types, all these terms are going to be very familiar with you. And the nice thing is, you can see it's a different interface, but once you've done it, you basically end up with the code that you can drop into your functions.php file, or you can go ahead and you can use this using a tool like code snippets if you want to have something that's a centralized location that doesn't touch normal files, but you add in all your custom PHP, CSS, JavaScript, those kinds of things. The other alternative that I've got that does pretty much the same kind of thing is Generate WP. And Generate WP, as its name would suggest, allows you to generate various different WordPress features. So for example, again, if we want to use those post types, we can simply come into a post type, we can give it a name, we can give it links to taxonomies, we can give it a description, and then we can create our code. And there's our code snippets underneath. So all of this is generated dynamically for us based upon what we input. Then, like I say, we can just drop that into our functions PHP file or use a tool like code snippets. And then we have our custom post type created with no more plugins to manage and maintain. Very, very sleek. Now, using tools like Elementor and things like that are pretty cool, but they are still limited. And this is where a website like CodePen can be very useful. If you want to try out really cool different effects like animated gradients, those kinds of things, a tool like CodePen or a website like CodePen is a great testing ground. So there's tons and tons of different features on here, tons of different options, and you can test things out, you can modify things if you're comfortable with code, but if you're not comfortable with code, you can simply come in and have a bit of fun and grab things that are already done for you. So for example, if you want to find some kind of animated gradient, you can use this. So let's just go take a look. We've got animated gradient with CSS. We can open that up and you can see there's our HTML, there's our CSS, and there's the JavaScript required for it. So you can literally just take this code, place it inside your page builder of choice or your theme, or if you just want to use a tool again like code snippets, you could do that and create all your code snippets. And like I say, if you want to customize the look and feel of any of these, you can do very, very simply. And finally, sticking with the color options, creating gradients, creating color combinations, so on, one of my favorites is Coolers. Now Coolers, as I've already covered in previous videos, is a great website that allows you to go ahead and generate cool looking color schemes. So if you are not very good at colors, or you may have specific requirements, you may want to check out what a particular color palette looks like to people with color blindness and various different forms of color blindness, Coolers is a great way of doing that. So let's just go ahead and take a look by starting the generator. So once you start the generator, this will generate a color palette for you. And as you can see, this gives us 5 colors, complementary colors and so on. And you can lock these, you can create shades of these if you want to view gradients. So you may want to create a monochromatic design and you want to use various different shades to give it a sense of dimensionality. This is a great way of doing just that. Now you may also have a logo or a photograph that you want to grab a color scheme from. You can simply upload that inside here by using the create palette from photo, upload it and create your own color palette from that. You can create collages, you can see we can check out color blindness, so based upon the different types of color blindness, this will show us the colors we choose and what will be seen by someone that has that particular form of color blindness. So you can see, I'm going to attempt to say the names of these, but you can see we can very quickly go through and make sure that our color combinations actually work with people that may have that particular form of color blindness. So again, a pretty cool way of doing things. You can adjust your palette if you want to. You can see we can adjust the hue, saturation, brightness, and temperature of these. We can view it. You can see there's our color palette. and all our different color options inside there, the different values and things, the hexadecimal, all the different kinds of things you may have for this particular color palette. And then when you're ready, you can go ahead and you export that. You can also, if you want to though, explore other people's color palettes. So you may want to just see, well, what color palettes are working for other people, and then use those as your own basis for design, where you can use the explore option, and inside there are literally thousands of different color palettes you can choose from, ranging from these great looking gradient color palettes to quite striking and bold color palettes and everything in between. So that's my 12, or technically 13, websites that you really want to check out to help give you more inspiration in 2022 and create more unique, more professional and much better web designs. As always, all of the links are in the description below, and if you've got any websites or tools that you swear by, let me know in the comments. Drop some links inside there so I can take a look and start benefiting from what you know about. As always, my name is Paul C, this is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.